Hey everyone, we're back up here this evening working on the C10 some more, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that we're doing on the gas straps and all. We got the bed pulled back off of it, so you know, it's back to the frame. But I'm going to show you some of the stuff, how he's doing the chain to the bolt. All right, right here, got it laid out, and he welded several of the links together here to make it solid. You know, because the way the chain moves and all, you know, it'd be hard to get good weld to it. And then he's got a washer in so that way it can kind of get laid out right. And you know, you pull it up so you can push it where he welds it. You can weld it across there flat and all. And then that way it'll be attached to the end of the chain. But he welded several of the links together right there, so that way it wasn't all the little pieces. That way he had a solid square down here, and then he ground it down some, so then that way he had something to weld to attach the bolt to, so then that way it wasn't just breaking off, it'd make it solid. But I just figured I'd show you what he was doing on that. I know we explained it some in the end of the other video, and then stuff got changed around and we wound up doing the bed instead of finishing the tank mounts. But that's what he's doing on that, and we'll be back in just a minute. All right, we've been messing with the lift pump, hooking all the stuff up. We got everything hooked up, and we still got to do a little bit of tying around and stuff so that way it don't move. But they're made to hook, you know, they mount out here on the trucks, and then you hook it at the fuel cooler. Well, we didn't want to see the filter off the side of the truck, so you know, we'd showed where it's been mounted here to the hitch and stuff. Well, we got, you know, the suction hose goes into the pump, and then you got the pressure hose that goes to the front of the truck, and then this is the pump return. And we put it, this used to go up the filler neck for the vent, so when you're filling it. But we're hoping this little vent's gonna be okay, and if not, we're gonna drill a hole in the tank and put a fit and then run another hose up instead of, because you're supposed to use, it comes with this little thing, and you know, you put it in so that way it blows the fuel back down that way. But where the bed and all sets kind of close, you know, it's getting a little cramped in that spot, so we put it all there. And then, you know, that one hooks to the factory one that hooked on the suction. So basically unhooked the suction hose that went to the CP3 and put the suction for the pump out of it, and then pumped it into the one going to CP3. So all that's hooked up. We still got to splice this plug in because it's 05. But we're gonna put power on it and see if the pump kicks on, and check over all our fittings back there and our fittings up here and make sure we ain't got no leaks. All right, I just got a battery sitting here temporary and got the hot in the ground that's supposed to go up there and hook up to the pump. Temporary hooked up. And then this should be the switch power, so when I touch it, the pump ought to kick on. And it kicked on. I don't know if you can hear it in the video or not. All right, I'm gonna get a pair of pliers, so then that way I can just clamp it right here, so then I can walk back there to the pump and all, where we're looking at for the leaks and stuff. Dad's standing back there, but I'll walk back there so y'all can hear the pump, and then we'll crawl up under the hood and make sure we ain't got no leaks up there. All right, I just got the key switch clamped to it, so then that way it'd stay running. But the new fast pumps are quiet compared to the old ones. You can't hardly hear it running. Walk up here and make sure we ain't got no leaks. Remember, we done away with the filter head and just looped it around. Don't hear no air or nothing. No fuel spraying. So that's a good thing. And everything back there still looks good too, don't it?
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess we're gonna let this sit here and run for a second until we start hearing it returning in the tank, because you'll hear it'll start returning back there when it gets the air bled through the system. And then we'll really look through everything again and make sure that there ain't some little seeps or something. All right, pump's running back there, but I'm just gonna push the piece in and see if we got fuel coming out up here or not. I can get on there to push it. Yep, we got some fuel. I got some air. Let me get a rag so then that way I can catch that. All right, we got a rag here now, so that way I ain't making too big of a mess. You hear the air all coming out of it. But it had to prime the filters and stuff. I should have cracked it open back there and let it fill them up, but it's the one itself, so it's just a lot of air to work through the system. Let it run for a second, and then this ain't squirting out a bunch of air there more. I don't really see many more bubbles, so, and you can see the fuel coming out. So we're gonna say that's good for now because it let a lot of the air out, and we'll let it keep pumping around. And we'll probably hit it again in a minute, make sure it ain't get some more air in it. All right, we've let it run for a few more. We're gonna see if it's got anything built up. Now we're starting to get where we're
It's changed now, though.
Yeah, I heard the pump change back there.
It's blowing it in back here now. So yeah, it's blowing in back here now.
Yeah, I got a lot better fuel pressure up here now. Where the pump's starting to return, and you can hear the pump changed a little bit, but it's not much of a difference.
Probably can't hear that on camera.
I don't know, maybe they can. I don't know. I don't know if they can hear it or not, but so far everything looks good. Other than the mess I made in the floor blowing it all over, but all that still looks good. So that's all good. So we've almost got the fuel system. Evidently it's pretty close on the fuel system being good. Now once the fuel system's good again, we should be able to try and start it again for the first time with the cab back on it, with the firewall fixed, and actually having the lift pump and being a lot more stuff fixed on it instead of just we kind of pieced it together to start with just to make sure the motor was good from where I'd wrecked the truck, but it's kind of more together now. So But maybe in just a minute we'll try and crank it. We're gonna let this thing keep circulating around so that way it's kind of bleeding a lot of the air out of it. We'll still have to bleed some out when we're cranking on it, but if we let it just run for a second, it'll help it out some more. All right, we've let the pump run for a few, so I'm gonna hook our temporary stuff here and hook the battery to the truck, and then we'll hook these temporary back up to it, and we're gonna crank on the truck and see if we can get it to start again. All right, we ain't got battery mounts made yet, so I got the battery sitting over here on the tire with the battery cables hooked to it. I've got the mass airflow hooked up so that way it don't try and rev way up when we crank it. And then I just got these temporary here. Dad's gonna crank on it and we're gonna see how it goes. It's the first time it's been cranked up like this. All right, you can go ahead. Because all the fuel system's been dry. Still got to run the exhaust out the back on it. That way it ain't right up there. Transmission lines are just U'd under there, so it's not pumping out because we ordered another set and moved them on back. But it's alive again. Don't see no fuel leaks. Started really well for it to be the first time it started with this fuel system and all, but that's the difference in a lift pump and trying to do it with no lift pump too. It's got a pretty spicy tune in it too. But it's got a lot of oil buildup in it too, where I'd rolled the truck. It sounds good. You never would think that a truck barrel rolled over 600 foot and sat upside down in the road for almost 3 hours. We've done a lot of stuff to it, but it's back and it's about to be driving real soon. Getting close to going to Myrtle Beach with it to run to the sun. We're gonna be pulling a 36-foot fifth wheel with it, and we're leaving in a little bit less than 3 weeks going down there. So we still got quite a bit to do, but it's definitely on the way. But at least it runs again now. All right, we're back here on the back of the frame. We're mounting the hitch, and when we cut the frame off, we got to drill new holes. So this hole right here, actually it lines up where we want it, but it ain't big enough. So we got the magnet drill stuck to the bottom, and then we eyeballed the center where it needs to be. So we got it magneted on here, but then just to make sure it wasn't going to move or nothing, we put a C-clamp on it. So we're going to drill it out now. So then we'll do the same thing on that side, and then this one up here we'll be drilling a new hole, so it won't be as hard to center it in the hole, because we'll be able to just center punch where we want to be at.
The bottom of her stroke, and I was wondering why it didn't feel like it was.
Yeah, it's because it's stretched all the way out. All right, well, that one's stepped out now. So we're gonna do the same thing on this side, and then we'll mark out and do the back ones. All right, I laid underneath it and drilled the back two. You've seen us drill this one, but it was the same all the way around. I just didn't use the clamp no more. It was easier laying down and not using the clamp. But hitch is all in and tight now. You can see it. It's tucked up good, so you don't stand out no bad at you. If you get down here, I'm gonna have to cut a light on because the way the shop's glowing. It's tucked up pretty good, but I've done slid the pintle in it, and there's plenty enough room and stuff for it. So the hitch is in now. We got the air tank out, so then that way we can put the rubber on it to figure out the strap lengths. And we're working on mounting the compressor right now. All right, it's the next day. We're back here messing with the truck. We put the air pump on here last night. We mounted it sideways here, and then when I went to test it, the pump sounded terrible, so we took it back off because there's no sense in a bad pump being on here. And we ordered a good one. So now we're messing with the air tank again. We just put our tie wraps to hold it temporary, and we put a piece of rubber and wrapped it around it and just put some painter's tape to hold it so we can make sure the chain links are right on it. And then after they're welded and we know the links are right, and then we're gonna clean everything up, paint it, and then the rubber will be clean too. So it'll make it look nicer when we're doing that, so it don't wear a hole in the tank where it touches the frame or where the chains lay on it or anything. But we're gonna get the chain cut in half and tack the brackets on the bottom, so then we can see how long the chain needs to be to weld it on there to hold it. All right, we picked the air tank back up out. We marked where they needed to be. These are the little tabs that was cut off of that bracket we was showing you, and we got one clamp down here. See it. It's clamped in there like that, so we'll weld it, and then the chain wrap around and the bolt will stick through it, and we'll put the nut here, tighten it up to pull it. But we got that and clamped up. We're gonna weld it in, and then do the same thing here. This is gonna get clamped up and welded right there, so then both of them's in. All right, I know it looks just a little bit different. We welded the chains on the back on both of them, and the tabs on the bottom on both of them. Painted all of it. So the tank's out there actually wet paint right now, drying, so then we can put the tank back in it. We welded this bar in because we're putting the transmission cooler right here. It'll be under still, so the bolt will come through here, and it won't sit on top. It's just easier to show with it being on top than trying to hold it down. So that's where it'll be at, and then the lines will run around and go up to the transmission. Put a battery box here for a second battery. We'll run battery cables back here, even though it'd be fine off one battery, but because we've run them off one battery, but we'll have a second battery back here. And then it also put it closer to the trailers. I'm gonna have a plug that goes from there, or wires that go from there to a plug here. So then that way the winch and the dump trailer and everything just plugs into it. So then that way your battery's right here to run them. So then that way if the trailer don't have a battery on it, there's one right here at the back. We're not running through so much wire. This one's always gonna be charged because it's on the truck. And it's gonna be a separate system. It's gonna have a cutoff up there, so you'll be able to cut it off. So if you're running lights and everything off of this, and the truck's setting and you ain't wanting to hear it running or nothing, you'll be able to cut the battery off. So then just this battery's doing whatever you're doing. If this battery dies and you go to crank the truck will still start. Then you can turn the switch, so it'll make this one charge then. But that's where that's at. We're gonna have to bend these. They're bent inward some, so we'll have to straighten them out, drill the holes, hang it. Tank's drying. I'm gonna set the radiator. I pulled it out of the truck. I'm gonna set the radiator back here, and I got 2 electric fans. We're gonna go ahead and get them mounted on it. So then that way the radiator is ready to go back in the truck. All right, you was just watching me. But what I did, I set the fan on there and then I just punched these through. So then that way I wouldn't know where they go. So then I could come on, I could take the fans off, flip it over, put the little foam pieces, put the square in there. So then when I flip it back over, it'd have all of them sticking up. So I can set the fan, you know, I'll be able to put the little foam pieces, these little foam pieces on that side instead of having to stick them to the fan like I did on the first one. I started sticking them to the fan, but then it leaves sticky out here. So when I flip back over, I'm gonna put these on the radiator. I'll pull them back off the fan and put them on the radiator, then set the fan on there to do it. But I'm gonna put you back over here on the stand. I just figured I'd bring you over here and show you how I got the holes, so that way you wasn't just watching me move around trying to figure out what I did. All right, we got them tie wrapped. I've got them, this one touching the bottom and that one touching the top. And the reason I done that is I was thinking then that way, instead of having these big spaces that there was no air going on, by me staggering the fans, at least this fan is cooling this strip, and that strip, this fan's cooling. We was gonna build a shroud for it, but I ain't really got the time because the way we're kind of getting tight on deadline here. So this should be perfectly fine. If we ever have issues with it heating, I'll cut these back out, build an aluminum shroud, mount these, and that would fix it. But I feel like this is gonna be perfectly fine. This is a factory size LB7 LLY radiator. Factory had plastic tanks, but I found this one on Facebook for cheap, so that's what we got. So it was used, that's why it's got a couple little bent up pieces. But these are 16-inch fans, so I mean, you know, they fit really well. I done measuring and looked, and when I seen I could get 16s, I was trying to get the biggest fans I could get on it, and I feel like it fits real well. So I'm gonna get these cut off. Don't know if this is gonna get put back in the truck today or not. Maybe it will. I just kind of got to see, because I got to work on customer stuff a little bit. I was just trying to knock out a couple little things while I was waiting on some parts for that car, but a lot of this stuff's coming in now, so I'm about to have to work on it again. I'm gonna get them things cut off and set it to the side. It may get put in today, but I don't know if it will or not. The tank, I'll bring y'all back when the tank's dry, because it's actually outside drying from where I'd painted it. But when it gets done drying, I'll bring y'all back when I put it in, and then we'll see what else we're gonna do on this video or whatnot. But we'll be back in a few. All right. We drilled the 4 holes and just bolted that on there. I actually put the air pump that was making a lot of racket. We messed up with it some, and it's a little quieter. Someone just run it for a little while, because the other one, you know, I don't know when it's gonna get here because the way shipping and stuff is. But it'll have it for now, and then when the new one gets here, it's just unbolt it, bolt it right back in. But the hose is already hooked to the tank, figured. That's our chain pieces with a rubber. Got to get a fitting, go from here and run a piece of hose, and we're gonna put an air chuck so you'll be able to pump a tire up. We put battery on here, just making sure everything was gonna work. We're putting just a side post so it won't have the terminals on top, it'll just be the side for the bed floor clearance. After putting it in here and looking at it, this tie down design, we don't like it. We don't like the idea of the clearances and trying to get to it. So we're going to work on the box and put a single hold down on the bottom and make the battery where it locks in with the one bolt down there instead of having to tie across. But that's the back. I mean, it's kind of crowded, but it's not bad, and there's still plenty of room if in the future we want to do another battery or another air pump. You know, there's plenty of room for that. Walk up here. I've done a little bit up here. I put the radiator in, cut a little bit more out of the factory hose. I still got to tighten the clamps up there just on there because I was making sure that all that was going to look okay. But the fans clear and look good. I don't know if you can see it. I fought with that for a while, getting that lower boost tube figured out. It's all slid together. I just got to get 2 clamps for it. I actually had to pull the battery back out, the computer back out to get to it. And then I'll have to loosen that clamp and twist that a little bit, and it'll line right up and be fine. But you can't see that great because these are the hoses that still got to be hooked up that are just flopping around. This, when I rolled the truck, it bent the dipstick all up, so we put a dipstick off another truck on here. And when it twists, when this pipe twists around where it really needs to be, it hits it pretty hard, and it hits the manifold pretty hard right there. For some reason, I don't understand that, but it could actually be clamped, you know, and if I pulled that in and clamped it and pushed it, it would not separate itself. And then this side's got it there and there, so really it needs clamped, so it's not that bad. We're still gonna have to do some stuff. That used to go to the water and fuel light, all that'll be gone. This is going up to the heater hose for the heater core, and then that and there go to the other side of the heater core when we get to it. But that, I'm trying to think of something else that I did today to tell you, but just figuring out a lot of this stuff and getting the lower radiator hose in down there. That kind of took some time got the radiator all back in, but fighting with them boost tubes took a little while. But that all turned out pretty good. I like the way it looks, the way it turned out. We painted a little bit more before we bolted everything in. That way when the stuff was bolted in here, I wasn't having to paint on it again. But like I said, we're gonna do away with this design and have it where it's just a little triangle piece with the one bolt that holds it to lock the battery in. It'll be a lot easier being you're gonna be laying on your back and pulling the battery out, unbolt it that way than that way. And we may come back later and actually cut a hole in the bed floor and just put like 4 bolts in it, so you could take the 4 bolts out and uncover all this if you ever had to work on it. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank y'all for watching.